And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf. And I'm here to bring you a solo episode on Purpose Begins with Identity. We've talked about this phrase a number of times, and even we've talked about some of the identities of our departments or our stores. And I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that. You know, we're in the month of April when this episode will launch. We're on the heels of the Purpose Summit. You can join us. There's still time, thepurposesummit.com. We're going to have 100 memory makers at the Purpose Summit in Charlotte for the 5th anniversary of the Purpose Summit, a global nationwide event. It'll be held at the Revelry at Camp North End and the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And so I thought, leading into the Purpose Summit, why don't we talk a little bit more about Purpose Begins with Identity?
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
So if you rewind the clock back about 5 years or so, I think in the beginning of 2019, during Broad River's Year of Purpose, we had asked every general manager, hey, what's a nickname for your store? And they gave us a nickname because we wanted to put, instead of the city name or the town name or the store number, behind the scenes, we wanted to come up with like their nickname in all of our store reports. And we wanted to personalize it to something that was meaningful and that had meaning for that team and that store. And so we asked them to do that. And then we had them come out at our RX event. I think it was our annual kickoff event that year. And we had them each come up one by one, and we gave them a balloon, and their logo and their nickname was in the balloon. So they would pop the balloon, and then they would read it and unveil their new logo that we had designed behind the scenes for a few weeks before they saw it, and did a big reveal. And then all the other folks in the room, all the other retail leaders and company leaders, we flashed them up on the big screen right as they were kind of having it unveiled. So it was a really cool moment that we had during that RX about 5 years ago. And what began with all of our stores taking on a unique identity, which we actually have a lot of passion about. Instead of just saying, hey, store 321 or store 208 or 108, we wanted them to be known by their identity. And we learned from all the readings we had during our Year of Purpose about it with our Purpose Activation Committee. It just, you could argue it either which way. Does identity begin with purpose or purpose begin with identity? But we just think identity is so powerful, in having your identity just rooted in knowing who you are. And so having that purpose connected to your identity, we said, knowing your team's purpose begins with identity. And it's something I think I came up with many years ago, and it just kind of stuck. It's one of those phrases that sticks. And so we really take a lot of intentionality around it. And now, okay, so all the stores came up with their own identities. And after that, the regions came up with their own identities. And then we started getting our departments and our distribution centers saying, hey, I want an identity. I want a logo. We were putting a lot of pressure on our marketing department, our graphic design team, saying, well, they're like, hey, we're trying to drive traffic and do marketing programs. I get it, but can you work this in? So, there's a little bit of healthy tension there, but it's really become a thing. And now those departments that are still out there that don't have their own logo, they're like, all right, we got to put some thought into it. So I thought we would just run through our identities. And by the way, we've had some stores that have changed it once or twice because they might get a new general manager or they might need to refresh it. And so that's always an interesting conversation. We're going to go from this to this. And so we'll walk through some of those. So this is Purpose Begins with Identity, something we're super passionate about at the River. Something, again, we think it just cuts us apart, sets us apart, makes us a little bit unique and a little bit different. So on the store levels, I'm going to start with the North Stars. Again, it's our North region. They're known as the North Stars. And so we've got the Flagship Enterprise. Pineville is our flagship store. It's our original store, and maybe a little bit of a nod to Star Trek, but also a nod to being, just the number one store. So they're known as the Flagship Enterprise. It really hooks their identity to being, just carrying the banner of, we need to be the leader. We need to take charge. We need to be ahead on all of our KPIs if we're going to be the flagship. And they carry that means it's very meaningful to them. And then the next one used to be the Unstoppables, and then we changed it back to the U, which before I think we had identities, it was probably something they called themselves. So University City Store is known as the U, and they love that. They got a lot of identity around that. And so Gastonia, I think it used to be the Gastonia Grinders. They wanted to change the game when a new GM came on board, and so they're now the Gastonia Game Changers. They're known as the Game Changers, which I think is pretty awesome. Our outlet in South Boulevard, they were originally the Boulevard Bulldogs, and then they said, you know what, we're going to change the lid on our ceiling of what the outlet can become and what it can be and what it can do and what it can achieve, and they became the Boulevard Believe, which is amazing. I love that one. We get to, the Mooresville store. It's really simple. The Lake. They're on Lake Norman. The Mooresville store is known as the Lake. They love that one. Hickory, which used to be Hickory Strong, then it was Hickory Hype, and then it came back and now it's Hickory Strong again. So it's embraced that one. And then Matthews, they wanted to kind of be as unified teams. They call themselves the Wolf Pack. They're going to hunt in a pack of wolves. So they're the Wolf Pack. Albemarle, we like the alliteration of the A and the A. So they're the Albemarle Aces. And then in Salisbury, one of the general managers who loved that nickname and the moniker of the Hype and had taken it from Hickory to our Kannapolis store. When we relocated the Kannapolis store to Salisbury, he said, I'm bringing the Hype to Salisbury. So they are now the Hype. So those are our stores in the north for the North Stars. And then one of the regions is called the Supernova. So you've got the Supernova, which is an area of 3 stores within the North Stars region. Okay, moving on to another region. I'll take you through all our stores. We go to the Wild West region. So I had the Sheriff Chris Wright of the Wild West region. So they've got their own identity and logo. And then we go into the Dreamville Drive, which is in our Greenville, South Carolina market. There's a baseball team there known as the Drive. And Dreamville is a great twist on Greenville, because it reinforces sleep. And then we go into Spartanburg, and they're the Hub City Hive. And then we go down the road to Anderson, and they are the Electric City Outlaws, part of the Wild West region. Going even further down into, going down to Greenwood, there's Lake Greenwood. They're known as the Emerald Wave. Now, if we go up the mountain, Western North Carolina, we go up the mountain, we go to Team Gold Rush. It's really because they wanted to upgrade their store, and they're climbing the mountain to get that gold level. So the Arden store is known as Team Gold Rush. And then again, ascending, climbing the mountain, Asheville, they became the Asheville Ascend, which is another great logo that ties to the region and to the store and what they're trying to achieve. Okay, so that takes us through the North region, the North Stars, and then the Wild West region. Let's move on to another region here. And we will go to the Savage South. So the Savage South has a great logo and identity for them. And then we've got the East Columbia Elite. That's right across the street from Fort Jackson. It's one of our outlets, the East Columbia outlet. We've got the Notorious NEC. That's had different logos and identities along the way, but they just rebranded recently as Notorious NEC. And then another one that's undergone a recent rebrand is the Soda City Sluggers, our original Columbia store. Notorious NEC is Northeast Columbia. Soda City Sluggers is the original Columbia store on Harbison Boulevard. And then if we go down to Augusta, down to the River City there, they are known as Smashville. So when we went to the new store, the new 2-in-1 Ashley Store and Outlet, they are known as Smashville. They're really smashing out the hits and the home runs there. And even our E team has one. They are called Cobra Kai, and they've got their own logo and identity. If we move down across to the beach to our coastal region, when we acquired the 2 stores in Wilmington, and Rick Rush helps us oversee that region along with Nick Grubbs, we've got the Mariners in the Myrtle Grove store, the original Wilmington store, and then the North Wilmington store in a town called Ogden. They are known as the Ogden Alliance. So 2 really great superhero-looking identities there. So for the Ogden Alliance. Okay, now let's go to the New Big East. They used to be the Beast from the East. Now they're the New Big East. And we got several stores in the East region. So let's see where we're going to start here. How about the Bull City Bombers? I think they originally were the Bull City Ballers, and then they were just dropping bombs. So they were going to be changed from the Bull City Bombers. And then we've got what used to be the South Point Spartans, which is now rising up from the ashes and having a rebirth, the Phoenix Point. So in South Point, our Durham South Point store. And then our Cary Crushers, they're really crushing it. They always crush their KPIs and their goals and their targets. That's another great one. And then down in Fayetteville, we've got, when we met with Holly White here recently on this podcast, the Special Forces. That's really meaningful to the group in Fayetteville. And the Special Forces is a 2-store region led by Josh Stanley and Jose Blanco. And going across the other side of Fort Bragg is Southern Pines, and they're known as the Southern Pines Express. They're part of the reinforcements. And then in Raleigh, we've got a few stores in Raleigh. So you've got the Raleigh Rain, which used to be Raleigh Wood, I believe, and now they are the Raleigh Rain, and they got their chess pieces there. And then we've got on Capitol Boulevard, in Raleigh's known as Oak City, they've got the Oak City Now. Sometimes I like to say Oak City Wow, because they just wow you with their KPIs and the art of the possible, the art of the actual being realized. And so that sense of urgency that they really demonstrated, they became the Oak City Now. And then down the road from our Raleigh Rain store is our Raleigh Outlet store, and they are known as the Glenwood Gladiators. So they're on Glenwood Avenue, and they are known as the Glenwood Gladiators. If you go further east, we have the Wilson Warriors, keeping with the battle theme. And then if you come down south of Wilson, we hit what we like to call the Rock. And so kind of like biblical, named after Peter, who's going to be the rock of the church. And also we kind of nicknamed Kevin Kidman the Rock, and who we're going to build around the east. Kevin was with us for many years. When we opened Four Oaks, the team there really in homage to Kevin, and then just what Four Oaks meant for us to be kind of that anchor, the Rock. And it's just it's a big boulder right off Interstate 95. So it's got an appropriate nickname, the Rock. So that takes us through the new Big East. With all those nicknames. And I've got to keep a cheat sheet here so I can keep myself straight with all these. So then once we started doing all of our stores, we met with Tim Klaus here on this podcast. Our DCs, our distribution centers, our operations team really wanted to kind of get in the game. So we came up with one for each of those. And so in Fort Mill, the original distribution center in Fort Mill, South Carolina, they are known as the Fort Mill Otters. And they had all kinds of, and the reason and the logic for each of these names is really interesting, why they chose the Otters and what it means for their team and how they reinforce that with their team. And then if we go out east, the store in Four Oaks is known as the Rock, and the operations team the distribution center part is known as the Four Oaks Falcons. So they're flying high, soaring high, Four Oaks Falcons. And then if you go to our third distribution center, which opened a couple years ago, the Spartan Ridge Bruins. So you've got the Otters, the Falcons, and the Bruins, sticking with animals with ops. And then if you go to retail operations, we've had Will, Luke, and Kelly Jones here. We've got 3 kind of sub-departments within retail operations. So we have the retail ops wizards, the whole Gandalf, thou shalt not pass. And they are wizards with all that they do and all the systems. And then we've got the sales audit River Watch for our sales audit team. And then for our retail inventory team, they are known as the CIA, the Chief Inventory Analysts. So those would be the retail operations department. All right. And then we start saying, okay, we got corporate departments and they wanted to get in on the game. And this is really fun. So we've got the CX team, and we've had Wes Dudley and Samantha Bloom and Anita Harris on the pod. And they are the customer experience all-stars. So the CX all-stars. They really wanted to take it to, hitting home runs, smashing home runs, and that baseball theme. And then, we've got the visual impact rock stars, because they truly are rock stars with what they get done in our stores. And then Brian Deckelnick, and that's team's led by Janet Limecooler, and then who's been on the podcast a few times. And then we've got Brian Deckelnick, who's been on the podcast a few times. And in supply chain, they are known as the supply chain sourcers. They're trying to source the product, and also what they do with the magic and getting the product to the guest at the right time, the right moment. And they're working wonders as well. And then Bill Woodman and his team, they just launched Knights of the Ledger for our finance department. And then breaking news, and I love this one. I just learned about it last night. We haven't even, I think by the time this one airs, we may have unveiled it to our company or may not, right around that same time. But the Marcom in marketing communications and community outreach, so sometimes we shorten that to Marcom, led by Kim Harkness, Marcom McCalls. And that's got a great, just a great logo and identity to it. And that's brand new breaking news. And just to kind of give you a little bit about the Marcom, the macaws. The macaws' big size and vibrant colors make them hard to overlook. These social birds can create a racket when they feel so inclined, and their clownish ways are sure to draw attention. Although their large beaks can be intimidating, a well-socialized macaw can be a friendly and affectionate companion. What great, what better way to describe our Marcom team? And I love the macaws kind of sounds like Marcom. It's got that alliteration to it as well, that phonetic sound that's similar. So that would be some of our departments. And it keeps it fun. It keeps it fresh. It's okay to have fun in business and to make it a little bit lighthearted, but really more than that, it gives us intentionality around our identity. And we think that we can be more purposeful in memory makers and furnishing life's best memories for each other, for our guests, when we're rooted in a really strong, unique identity, other than a generic one like, hey, we're just the marketing team, or we're just the finance team, or we're just the Pineville store. We really take a little bit extra effort to make it personal, make it unique to the leader, the team, the people on the team, and let them rally around behind it. So they might have, different swag, different shirts, mugs, logos, and stickers and things that they do to really indoctrinate and put those logos out there in use throughout their department and what they do. So we have fun with it. We let it breathe and have a life of its own. And so that's something that we do at Broad River to kind of keep it fun and fresh. What are you guys doing in your company to keep it fun and fresh? We'd love to hear some great ideas. We can always learn from each other. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Purpose begins with identity. And one last PSA for the Purpose Summit. If you haven't made plans, if you haven't booked your ticket, we're going to have 100 memory makers strong. We hope to see you at the Purpose Summit. Thank you guys so much. We try to bring you fresh new content every Tuesday and Thursday here at Stories from the River. You can get us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast content. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.